What happens when an anti-woke ex-Fox News host takes over the most important job in the US government? This is part 2 of the Hegseth files. Remember when Pete Hegseth promised to restore discipline and accountability to the Pentagon? Well, let's talk about what happened after he got the job. Let's talk about the questions surrounding his drinking that dominated his confirmation hearings. Let's talk about Signalgate. And let's talk about what happens when the guy who spent years telling everyone else how to run the military suddenly has to run it himself. Welcome back to the Hegseth files. Before we even get into Signalgate, there's something I find genuinely ironic. Donald Trump has repeatedly said he doesn't drink because he watched alcoholism devastate his older brother's life. It's a tragedy he's spoken about for years and one he says shaped his own decision never to drink, which makes this an interesting contrast. Two of his most high-profile national security appointments, Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel, have both faced public scrutiny over alleged alcohol-related concerns. In Hegseth's case, questions about his drinking became a major issue during his confirmation hearings. He denied having an alcohol problem and promised senators he would not drink while serving as Secretary of Defense if confirmed. Whether you think those concerns were legitimate or politically motivated is your decision. I know mine. But they were serious enough to become one of the defining issues of his confirmation. Then he took office. Almost immediately, Hegseth began reshaping the Pentagon around what he called the warrior ethos. He argued that America's military had become too focused on bureaucracy, diversity initiatives, and politics, and not focused enough on producing lethal warfighters. He openly criticized troops he believed were out of shape and pushed for tougher physical standards across the force. Then came one of the most talked about initiatives, annual testosterone deficiency screening for many service members as part of their routine physicals, with testosterone replacement therapy available for those diagnosed with a deficiency, unless, of course, you were trans. Supporters praised the move as recognizing an overlooked medical issue that could improve readiness. Critics questioned whether routine screening was medically justified and argued it reflected Hegseth's broader emphasis on a hyper-masculine military culture. So that was the image. Discipline, strength, higher standards, and then Signalgate. Senior Trump administration officials used the commercial messaging app Signal to discuss upcoming U.S. strikes against the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. The conversation became public after National Security Advisor Mike Waltz accidentally added the Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg to the group chat. Yep. A journalist was accidentally invited into a discussion about an active military operation. Hegseth initially insisted that nobody was texting war plans, God forbid, but the messages reportedly contained operational details about the timing of the strikes and the weapons involved, raising immediate questions about whether sensitive military information had been handled appropriately. Later reports also said Hegseth shared information about the same operation in another Signal chat that included his wife, his brother, and his personal lawyer. The Pentagon Inspector General later concluded that Hegseth had violated department policy by using Signal to transmit information that originated from classified systems. Then came Iran. As tensions escalated into direct conflict, Hegseth became one of the administration's chief public defenders of the military campaign. He argued the mission was limited and necessary. Critics argued the administration often sent mixed messages about its long-term objectives and the risk of escalation. For me, that's a contradiction. Pete Hegseth built his public brand around discipline, accountability, and demanding excellence from everyone else. But leadership isn't just telling other people to meet a higher standard. It's living by one yourself. Because once you're the Secretary of Defense, the consequences aren't measured in television ratings. They're measured in military operations, international crises, and the lives of the people you're sending into harm's way. That's the difference between talking about leadership and having to prove it. Pete